Hello again. I thought we'd talk today a little bit about spreadsheets and how to work with information inside spreadsheets. So here's my week 4 check-in form that I sent to students last week, just asking them how they were doing. And as I mentioned before, in the responses tab, Google now has a number of views where I can look at this information. This view is really important if you're working with a quiz, because you can go back and give them feedback here. But when I'm just having them submit answers or I just have information in a spreadsheet, I prefer the spreadsheet view. So again, here's the link to my spreadsheet. And if I click on that, I end up at my spreadsheet. So let's do a few things first of all to make it easier to look at the information. And then we'll talk about how we could sort it. Number 1, I have this email addresses field where I've removed student email addresses. And I don't need to look at this right now. So I'm going to click on the drop down. When I hover over this B cell here at the top and I click on the drop down, one of the options is hide column. So if you don't need to see it, you can hide it. If you don't care about the timestamps, about when they came in, you do the same thing in A. Use the little drop down, hide the column. There you go. And if you ever want them back, there's now a darker triangle here, and just clicking that will pop the 2 cells back out. So let's hide email addresses because I don't need to see those. And now I have a number of cells where information is running outside of the cell and I want it to be a little easier to read. So I'm going to click up here in this gray cell between 1 and A. And I'm going to go to Format and then Text Wrapping and Wrap. And so that will have it wrap the information in a cell, so some cells end up big like this. Now, because this last question was open response and there's some longer ones, I'm just going to hover between F and G till my pointer changes and make that column a little bigger. There we go. That's a little easier to read. Okay, so let's talk about the first question I asked them, which is in column C here. So it's week 4. How are you feeling about still doing school from home? So I had a few options for them. I wish I were back at school. I'm still loving it. It's okay. I'm getting into a groove. Okay. Maybe I want to look at a certain response for students. Maybe I just want to identify which student said, I wish I were back at school, to help me get an idea of who's really feeling it. Oh, I also had, is it over yet as an option. So maybe I want to look at both of those. So a few options. 1, I could certainly just scroll through all my data and try and find it. But we're in a spreadsheet, so we're going to make it a little easier than that. I'm going to go back to that drop down at the top of column C. And I'm going to choose Sort Sheet A to Z. So that sorts the whole sheet alphabetically based on the responses in this column. The rest of the data will move with it. So now at the top here, I have all of my I wish I were back at school together. I'm getting into a groove. I'm still loving it. Is it over yet? It's okay. So now it's sorted by student. So now if I had my student name column up, I could go in and say, oh, he's feeling this way, she's feeling that way. I could use that information. Maybe I want to take it a step further and have the spreadsheet do some of the work for me. So I'm going to sort this on column A, just so they're back in the order that they came in on. And I want to look for any student who said, is it over yet? Because I may be worried that, okay, they may be starting to slow down, or they may be really starting to feel it, and what else can I do to support them? So I'm going to copy this response, Control C, and then I'm going to go to Format Conditional Formatting. So before I do that, I'm going to highlight the whole cell. So I'm just going to click somewhere by C so that all of C is highlighted. I'm going to go to Format and Conditional Formatting. It's going to bring out a little tab here. So it's going to apply to the range of cells that I've already highlighted, which is anything in the C column. Format rules. If cell is not empty, no. I want if text contains. So it's saying if any of these cells, and I'm going to paste in my response, has that. Is there a better option? You could use text contain or text is exactly because they're filling out a form. So let's use text is exactly. So format cells, if text is exactly, is it over yet? And look, so by default, now they're green, but I want them to be red because I want it to stand out for me. I don't want it to be too dark because I want to be able to see the color underneath. There we go. So now, if any student answers, is it over yet? It's going to highlight that in red. So that I know just at a glance, I can come into my spreadsheet and I can say, oh, here are 2 red responses. So you may have a question that is something to the effect of, I'm feeling comfortable with the work, or one of the responses is, I really need help. You could have that highlighted in your spreadsheet. So then you could always go back and find it. And we can certainly add other rules. So if, let's say I think if I wish I were back at school, I want that too. So add another rule. If cell text is exactly, paste that in. I wish I were back at school. And let's make that yellow. So that's maybe something I want to be concerned about, but it's not as bad as the other one. Now, I forgot to highlight my range before I came in here. So right now, this is only applying to cell C. So if I click done, it should only highlight that one cell. And that rule only shows up when I'm clicked on that one cell. When I'm anywhere in column C, it'll show me the red rule, but the yellow rule only when I'm in that cell. So let's fix that. Click on it to edit it, and you can use this button to select your range. And I'm just going to click on column C, and it's going to say anything in C. Okay, there we go. Look at that, fixed. So now I'm highlighting information that I want to be able to see more quickly. That way, I can search on sort of 2 areas. So I might compare, let's sort this column that asks them what they finished this week. So I might look at how many things they said they did and if there's a correlation there between how they're feeling. And now I have a group of students, as you can see here, who are working very hard to make sure they finish everything. So I don't see a huge connection here, right? There doesn't seem to be a pattern. These students here who are completing all of the work I'm assigning, there's lots of students here who are feeling like they're back at school. And then the student who just did math and worked really hard on that also wishes they were back at school. So that's one way that we can sort and look at information in a spreadsheet. I'm going to do a few more of these and look at some more options in spreadsheets down the road. But that's it for today. Again, as always, if there's anything I can do to help or you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out.